Welcome to another video, and we've made it to today. The launch of Affliction is just hours away, and I did want to do my League Starter video much earlier, but I've just been really busy, and to be honest, I hadn't really decided on what exactly I wanted to play for League Start, because GGG just kept dropping so many interesting gems. But in the end, I decided that I wanted to play Hardcore Solo Self-Found, and so I didn't really want to rely on a transfigured gem, as I'm not 100% sure how easy these are going to be to get, or if you can reliably get one before you reach maps, for example. So I'm going to be league starting the Flamewood Ignite Chieftain once again. I know, 2 leagues in a row, but some things have changed. You may remember from the Trial of the Ancestors launch, Flamewood was bugged for the first 4 or 5 days of the league. The spell was essentially checking for accuracy as if it was an attack, and that was very awkward, and it kind of tarnished the experience for me. But even with that bug, my league launch was surprisingly smooth. I did have some gripes with the playstyle of Flamewood, but I think those issues were definitely exacerbated by the accuracy bug. So I really want to give it another go. And I will say this is most definitely not a build guide, but I have linked an extremely basic POB in the description below. The build is buffed this league if you're using Rejuvenation Totem, which is what I'm going to be doing this time around. Rejuvenation Totem is getting 20% more life for its quality stat in 3.23, and that's pretty huge not only for damage, but also for opening up avenues to scale the build further later on. This build is designed for hardcore, and the playstyle is very defensive in nature. You put down totems which taunt enemies. Enemies hit the totems, which then proc the Flamewood's Avenging Flame trigger skill, launching a projectile at the attacking enemies, and this projectile deals fire damage based on how much maximum life the totem has. So here's the POB, and one thing I will mention right at the start, the Hinekora node on the Chieftain is being changed this patch to also work if your totems get kill credit, so I may try that out at some point. But this build setup is using Ramako instead. So we're using Tasadio and Vlaco, of course. This is the bread and butter of our defences. Arohongui for the totem taunt. This one also provides a large amount of bonus recovery from recoup based on the damage our totems are taking. And there's a cool synergy here with Rejuvenation Totem, which is granting us a bunch of life regeneration. So some of that regeneration is being converted back to life regeneration for the totem. And Ramako, so we can forego any kind of negative fire resistance stacking. It does mean that we need to be stationary to gain the benefit of this node, but that's a lot easier to do with the totem taunt in this build. So instead of stuff like flammability and exposure, we're using punishment for our curse, so our ignite deals a bunch more damage when the enemy is on low life, and that's in an Arcanist brand setup with Flame Surge for the extra burning ground damage based on ignite. And pretty much everything in this build is life tapped. In the endgame, I'm likely going to try for an Eldritch Battery setup, which will be a ton more damage because we'll be able to swap out the life tap gems for higher damage supports, and also run a Divine Blessing Malevolent setup. But I'm going to be using life tap early on. It's just incredibly comfy with the Rejuvenation Totem, so no problems with life recovery at all. We've got a shield charge set up here, and in the boots there's also Arctic armor, which is great for defense, especially against physical hits, since we'll be standing still a bit to benefit from Ramako's modifier. This link is something I might forego early so that I can benefit from the new ascendancy. That's the Warden of the Magi's Oath of the Magi notable for that bonus move speed. I think that'll be really nice in the campaign. But I may also just run Warlock for Penance Mark, so that I can just have it on my skill bar for any annoying map bosses later on. There's not a huge amount of those types of map bosses that are super awkward with Flamewood, but there are a few of them. For example, the Labyrinth Goddess is one of those. And with Penance Mark, I'll be able to force the summoned minions to hit the totem for Flamewood procs, which will be really nice. Other than that, my plan for the Wildwood Ascendancy is definitely going to be the Primalist, so hopefully I find some nice charms. And back to the skills, the Rejuvenation Flamewood setup is the main 6 link in the body armor. This will be Val Rejuvenation Totem, which has a lot more life than the normal one. I'll be saving that for bosses or tanky rares. And I'll be running Val side areas when I find them for that. Our helmet link is the rest of the reservation skills, Determination, Purity of Fire, of course, we're a Chieftain, Skitterbots linked to Unbound Ailments, and lastly, the cast when damage taken set up here for Molten Shell, and Flame Dash, and also Infernal Cry for the cover in Ash on tanky targets. The gear I have equipped in this PoB is very, very basic. It's pretty much just life and resistances everywhere, a few Eldritch Implicits, nothing major. And for the tree itself, we're grabbing life from the Marauder start. A league launch, I'll actually be pathing up here instead, and I'll be leveling with Holy Flame Totem, same as before. And we're grabbing max res here and here. Lots of life from the tree, pathing all the way down to the bottom of the tree here for Ironwood. I may anoint this later on, but the thing is there's 40% increased totem life just on the small nodes around it, which is a lot of damage, so I'll have to have a think about that. Then we're pathing through here, through Barbarism, that's more life and more max res. Grabbing damage here. There's also Ignite Chance on the small node before Divine Judgment, and more Ignite Chance over here on Holy Dominion. And most importantly, the Primal Manifestation Wheel, that's the totem wheel just here, which is just a huge amount of totem damage and totem life, so that's just a giant amount of damage for this build. And more Ignite Chance here. And up at the top here, Elemental Overload and the Dot Multi-Wheel, more life taken, mana reservation efficiency from the Mana Mastery, and a bunch of fire damage and Ignite Chance right at the top. The Ignite Chance is important because once we have Ramako, which will be the Uberlab Ascendancy, we won't be using Combustion anymore. Prior to Uberlab, I'll be using Combustion and Flammability. And that's pretty much it for the PoB. The build doesn't do tons of damage. The setup with Val Ancestral Warchief is way more damage on single target, but less damage for clearing. And I think overall this setup will feel a lot more comfortable to play. As I said, I'm going to be playing solo Self-Found, and I'll be farming the Poop boss. Yeah, that's this guy. That's a really annoying boss. He drops Black Zenith, a pair of unique gloves which enable hit-based Flamewood like no other. I believe they're like a 5% drop rate or something like that. So if I do get these, I'll be switching out to hit-based at some point and going crit, but that setup will be a lot different. But I'm super excited to play this league. I love all of the new Transfigured gems, and I can't wait to try some of them out. And since I'm playing SSF, I just decided to go with something that I'm comfortable with for league start, something that I'm confident in as well. And I mean, my last league launch was very smooth, even with the bug, and that's gone now, so I think this one will be a lot better. But yep, I'm looking forward to launch. I think it's going to be another banger of a league. What are you league starting? Let me know in the comment section below. And have a great league launch wherever you are and whatever you're playing. As always, stay tuned and stay safe.